повечето от вас вече казахме здравейте. Въпреки че има дори доста обитатели на Сохо, а други пък от вас са идвали на други събития, за тези, които никога не са идвали, радвам се, че сте тук. Сохо е едно арт-coworking пространство, където се стараем да правим такива уютни и полезни събития, като това за Силви. За него няма да говоря, защото предпочитам той сам да се представи. Това, което ме впечатли, е начинът, по който въздейства на хората и положителността му, както и темата, която сме избрали. Радвам се, че прие името, което аз предложих, тъй като ни разказа какво иска да ви даде. Направих референция с този филм, не знам дали сте го гледали с Уил Смит, който не го е гледал, препоръчвам го, много симпатичен. И тъй като вече позакъсняхме, повече няма да губя от времето на Юли.
Hello everybody, good evening. Добър вечер. Както знаете, токаше на английски. Okay. Много се радвам, че всички сте тук, че отделихте от скъпоценно ви време да дойдете да слушате. И вярвам да мога да ви помогна в вашето преследване на щастието или разрастването на щастието ви. The topic under discussion tonight is in pursuit of happiness. This is a topic that is really close to my heart. A lot of people see me as a happy person.
Yeah, they do.
I wasn't always that way, by the way. A few words about me, very quickly. This is what I do, what I'm doing here now. I'm a speaker. I'm an author. I have 2 books on Amazon. One is called The Art of Motivation, that helps people, it shows people a methodology on how to discover their core design, what they're good at in life and focus on. My latest book is If I Can Just Focus, 5 Keys to Sanity and Success. And it takes 5 keys from the very word focus and teaches people how to focus once they discover what they want to do in life. And the third thing I do, of course, is I offer training and consulting. I love building people, offering personal development, and building teams. That's about me in short. What you see here on this slide, excuse me, is a photograph from the Hubble telescope. Everyone's probably familiar with the Hubble telescope, NASA's Hubble telescope. Okay, and it's a photograph of our galaxy, the way it is. It's been discovered that there are over 100 billion galaxies in existence today. We are currently in one of them, and we're on a tiny planet located on one of those galaxies. So the world, the universe is vast, right? And it seems to us, at least, it seems to most of us, that we are the main players, right, in the entire universe. Not knowing about other civilizations on other galaxies and so on. But there's something obviously very special about us, about mankind. And it's interesting if you take a dive down from the galaxy down to our planet Earth, where we are, you'll see that everything that's created around us, whether it's the mountains, whether it's the rivers, the oceans, the trees, right, us ourselves, right, who are the crown of creation, and other things, they give us happiness. Even the rain right now that's falling outside, the rain drops on the glass. There's something pleasant about sitting in the warmth and watching nature, watching things in creation. So it seems that a lot of things around us contribute to our happiness. And a lot of things around us help us experience what we see as happiness. Now, I'm not going to give you a definition for everybody for happiness. By that I mean I'm not going to give you everybody's definition for happiness, right? But I hope to be able to enrich you in your pursuit of happiness and to enrich your attempt to grow happiness in your own life. Happiness is a huge topic, okay? But like Ralph Waldo Emerson said, he said there are 3 purposes to thinking. The first is to solve problems. The second is to create opportunities. And the third is to enrich the human experience. So that's what I'm hoping, I'm believing to do tonight, to enrich your experience and understanding and growth of your own personal happiness. I interviewed a lot of people and I've done a lot of research over the years regarding happiness. And it's amazing that as you come down to earth, right, leaving the cosmos now, a lot of people do a lot of things, right, to be happy, or that help them experience happiness. This here is my brother-in-law, right there, Johan Spassov, Joko Spassov. A few years ago, he decided to climb Mont Blanc. Some of you may already be familiar with it. It's called the White Mountain. It's over 4,500 meters high. Now, let's picture this for a minute. Climbing something like the White Mountain. Experiencing dangers of hypothermia, of frostbite, extreme temperatures, okay? Being stretched to the limit spiritually, emotionally, physically. They went up with different expeditions and they met people from different countries, different teams. They actually saw a team go up the mountain, and on their ascent to the peak, they actually saw a place on the mountain where a fault line opened up and these people fell down to an icy death. They began the journey, but they never came back. So my point is, a lot of people have different definitions or different ways of experiencing happiness. He got to the top and he experienced happiness. He experienced a sense of achievement. A lot of people associate happiness with fulfillment. I do, to a certain degree. We associate happiness with meaning, a sense of purpose. And I've seen that people normally go for or pursue happiness, first of all, looking within themselves. There's personal happiness. Are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with your life? There's relational happiness, or happiness in our relationships. Man is created in the context of relationship. That's why we like events like these. We like to meet people. People like to congregate. Okay, not everybody, but most people like to congregate, okay? And it's seen that even the most admired civilizations that science has studied over time throughout human history, whether it's the Mayans or the Egyptians or whoever it is, right? The Greek word defining ecstasy talks about the ability to step outside of yourself. And most people were able to step outside of themselves by attending events similar to these, going to the theater, experiencing different things outside their normal everyday life and outside their work. So we seek happiness first of all within ourselves, personal happiness. Then we seek happiness in our relationships. Also, we seek happiness in our work. And by our work, I like to use the word destiny because I believe in destiny. I believe I'm a creature of destiny. I believe everybody has a purpose. And I believe it's important to discover what that purpose is. Because that's when you become passionate. That's when people can sense something genuine. When you do what you do out of a love for what you do, it's obvious, it's evident. This is another picture taken by a friend of mine, Ilya Tanchev. He experiences a lot of happiness from all kinds of experiences. He travels all over the world and takes great photographs, like this one. He experiences happiness. So there are different components of happiness. Whether it's a beautiful garden, right, or beautiful flowers, or beautiful scenery, or whether it's trees. Most of us, we like to go on hiking trips, or we like to go to the mountains or to the seaside because we experience happiness. But there are different components of happiness. And there are different ways of pursuing happiness. One way, of course, could be climbing up the mountain, could be, going deep sea diving, right? Or whatever. There are different ways. So I'm going to present to you tonight a couple of ways I have applied in my own life to grow my happiness and what I believe happiness is. And I'm going to present to you the different components I just highlighted, which include personal happiness, happiness in our relationships, happiness in our callings or our work, okay? And of course, happiness in our experiences. So chances are you believe in happiness. I do too. And I like to bring before you a process. This is this like 4-step process covering these 4 components. And I hope this will enrich your experience and your growth or your pursuit of happiness. I'm happy, but I believe that we can always grow some more in happiness. I think we can all do. Before I go to the next slide, I went through research that was done in the US. Up to the year 2000, they decided to do research of over 1 million people, right, in 1,000 separate surveys on happiness. Where are people happiest? Okay, which nations of the world are people happiest? Why are they happy, right? There's arguments on money can't buy you happiness. And on the other hand, money can buy you certain aspects of happiness. But it was interesting, the results of the survey showed that, for instance, in the US and in other countries that were surveyed, when your income rises to a certain point, up to say they calculated a few $1,000s a month, okay? A few $1,000s a month. They found that beyond that point, further increase in your income does not substantially increase your happiness. And I have the graph here on my desktop. Just have to, how do I exit this? Show the graph. Okay, I'll put the graph later on. So you can see the actual results, but it shows that with an increase in income above a few $1,000s a month, people's happiness does not really increase. So something is wrong. And the world we live in today, with all the advances in science, with all the advances in technology, with all the changes, life is so much easier now than it was a few thousand years ago. Before, for instance, electricity, right? Electricity was invented, not saying invented because it was already in existence, it was mainly harnessed. Okay? Before the telephones, right? Before the world was shrunk to the size of a golf ball, as I've heard someone say before, right? Before communication capabilities were increased.
Before television.
Yeah, before television. Okay, so before all these things came, it seems some people kind of lived a happier life than they do now. We have the best of everything. We have great communications. We have the latest gadgets, the latest devices, the latest technology. There's the pressure to keep going on for newer and better and faster and stronger and multitasking to the point where, you know, you just become like a multitasking organism, okay? But it hasn't increased people's happiness substantially. And things do not really increase people's happiness. So, I'd like to talk about this process. And I'll begin with the first component, which I have identified, which is personal happiness. And I've seen that personal happiness begins in your mind. Your mind is the factory of your future. Your mind is the engine of your life. Whether it's in scriptures or whether it's in science or in philosophy or in research that has been done, right, over centuries, it's been seen that the subconscious mind of man plays a significant role in our lives. King Solomon said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. You are who you are inside. You are what you see inside. And you cannot really go beyond what you see inside. And if it were to happen that you were to attempt to go beyond that, your vision of self will always keep you at that level that you see yourself within. So the imagination is very, very powerful. Your mind. Your mind and your imagination can affect your feelings. I've seen most of the time when we get upset, when I have gotten upset over the years, when I have had negative emotions over the years, it's been as a result of my thoughts. And I found out that thoughts affect your feelings. And if you can control your thoughts, you can control your feelings. If you can control your thoughts, you can control your emotions. It's happened to me in the past where an image flashed through my mind of an offense or something that someone did years ago. And the very image alone in my mind caused my blood pressure to raise, my heart rate to increase, to the point I found myself clenching my fists. And we can all relate to things like this. We may have had experiences in the past, but the point is this: your mind controls your emotions. Your mind controls your feelings. Your thoughts control your feelings. And anytime we aim for personal change, and of course personal change will also have to do with happiness. Becoming happier means a change from the state you are in now to a different state. Anytime we're aiming for personal change, for personal growth, for a change in our lifestyle, whatever kind of change we are looking for, it will all begin in the mind. Mind development is extremely important. It's important to understand the purpose of our minds, and it's important to understand how to train and develop the mind. I began to do this a couple of years ago, and I'm still growing in it. Developing my own mind, developing my own thought processes, and understanding that I do have control over my thoughts. Most relationship problems are problems with the mind, because they affect emotions and everything else. So I began to work on my mind, and I saw a couple of keys in this. I saw that I need to, first of all, take personal responsibility for my own life. Here this is a cartoon. It says, you've got a problem with avoiding personal accountability. And the other chicken answers, yeah, and whose fault is that? So we all know about the blaming game, right? And there's the other danger of accepting personal responsibility, right? When I accepted full responsibility, that was just a manner of speaking. And he's being tied to the stake to be burned to death. So personal responsibility is a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing in understanding that we are the ones in charge of our own destiny. We are the ones that can project our own futures. We are like mini creators. And what happens in our mind will eventually happen in time. So if I can harness the power of my mind, I can control the direction of my life. I can control my decisions. And if I control my decisions, I can control the direction my life is taking. And if I do that, I can control my destiny. I can control my happiness. So the first thing in managing the mind, one of the things I've seen is taking 100% responsibility. The so-called man-made millionaire, W. Clement Stone. I don't know if anyone has heard of W. Clement Stone. He lived a long time ago. How about Jack Canfield? Okay, Jack Canfield's an author. He's a speaker as well. He wrote a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul that sold hundreds of millions of copies worldwide. And when he went to work for W. Clement Stone initially, he was a teacher. And Clement Stone asked him the question, are you taking 100% responsibility for your life? And he said, yeah, I think so. He said, okay, let me ask you a few more questions. And he asked him, have you ever made an excuse for anything? The next question was, have you ever blamed anybody for anything? And the third question was, have you ever complained about anything? And the first time I heard this, and actually over time I've had to keep raising my hand to say yes, right, to one of those questions. But I made a decision to take 100% responsibility for my life. And if you answered yes to any of those questions, the truth is you are not taking 100% responsibility for your life and for your personal happiness. Some people could say, how is that possible? You don't know what people have done to me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know where I've been. Yes, I don't. And you don't know where I've been. But I know this, that taking 100% responsibility for your life doesn't mean you caused everything negative that happened in your life that may be making you feel unhappy right now. You may not have caused it. You may not have initiated it. We don't choose where we're born. We don't choose which citizens of which country we're going to be until later on in life we can decide that, right? We don't decide those things. But in spite of what has happened, in spite of what I've experienced, I am going to decide to act as if, I didn't say it's true, but I'm going to act as if everything that happened in my life, either I caused it, or I tolerate it, or I'm perpetuating it. This means moving from the position of being a victim to being proactive. Because if I'm feeling like a victim, I can always blame somebody or something for my not being happy. I found out my wife is not responsible. My beautiful wife, she's here tonight, Elizabeth. She's not responsible for my happiness. Some people get married to be happy. But first of all, if you're not happy in yourself, you won't find it anywhere else. She's not responsible for my happiness. When I was working for different bosses, and I'm currently on a contract with Hostway Corporation, they are not responsible for my happiness. My friends, I have very close and wonderful friends that are here tonight, that I'm so happy to be here, and I feel happy that they're here. But they are not responsible for my happiness. My happiness, whether I'm happy or not, is my responsibility. And it can be a hard pill to swallow. But I decided to take 100% responsibility for my life. And I'm growing in that. And I'm identifying areas where I have not been taking responsibility and decided I'm going to take responsibility. My happiness is my responsibility. So that's the very first point, and this is totally life-changing. Just this alone. You cease from becoming a victim and you become a person that can decide what your destiny is. Some people say, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Why don't you decide? You decide. What you want to do by 7 a.m., what you want to do by 7 p.m., who you want to meet, where you want to go, what you want to do. I like something that I think it was Will Smith. He quoted somebody and he said, if you want something, go get it. I think he said it in the film, right? In Pursuit of Happiness. You want something, go get it. You decide. You are the architect of your destiny. You've been given that power, that ability to decide, to take responsibility and to create your own destiny. So in managing our mind, personal happiness, that's the first thing I've learned. The other thing I've learned in managing our own personal happiness is training the mind, developing the mind. I am selective about what I watch. I am selective about what I read. I'm selective about places I go to. I'm selective about things I do. Not because I'm anti-social, as you can see, I'm not. But because what I hear, what I see, affects my thinking. What I see on the news affects my thinking. And this is another important point with regards to personal happiness. What each and every one of us defines as happiness can be traced to our childhood. It can be traced to the way we were brought up. It can be traced to our experiences in the past. A lot of things that we define as happiness or that drive us in our pursuit for happiness can be traced to that. And there are a lot of people in life that have gone through all kinds of limiting mindsets and models in upbringing and so on, but they have overcome these odds. They have decided, I'm responsible, I'm not going to let my past hold me back. I'm going to move forward, I'm going to rise above that. Actually, in that movie, in The Pursuit of Happiness, it was a decision that Chris Gardner made. He made a decision he was not going to make the same mistakes his father made that he never knew. I think he didn't know his father until he was 17 or 27. I don't know how old he was. But he made a decision. He wasn't going to let that limit him. And that's very powerful to know that I can make a decision to go beyond those limiting models and mindsets. And over the years, it's been a journey for me, discovering what those have been. Because we know success is available for everybody and so on. But a lot of times what hinders people is right here. It's in thinking. Anybody can become anything. We have that ability, that power within us. But our own happiness, of course, for everyone is individual. Our own happiness will be dependent on who we are within ourselves. For instance, I'm a speaker. I'm a writer. I love growing people and teams. That's what I do. When I was doing other things, I found I wasn't experiencing the same happiness as I do right now, just doing this. Something I'm passionate about. So there are components of happiness, but our personal happiness is where it all begins. That is where it all starts. If you can win the battles from within, the battles from without will be nothing. Happiness in our relationships. This is another big one. We're all made and we all enjoy or experience happiness in the context of relationships. Everybody does. I do. We want to feel, we want to belong. We want to feel we're part of something significant. We have meaning in relationships. And I've seen man is relationship prone. So, success in relationships is crucial. There was some research done that proved that people who are successful, because happiness is normally equated in most people's minds to success. And of course, financial success. Right? Most people, when we see, the headlines or a magazine, or things on Forbes, or different websites, most people, when they see these people, they say, okay, this person's happy. This person's successful, It's happening with this person. This person is really happy. But that's not the entire truth. Happiness in relationships. A couple of things I have learned that I'd like to share, and I believe will enrich you. One of them is listening. One of them is listening. Listening to people. And I've had to learn. I've had barriers I've had to, overcome over the years in developing in my personal happiness, in my relationship happiness, with my wife, with my family. I've grown, I'm still growing, right, in my pursuit of happiness, so to say. Because everyone has a right to be happy. But when I say pursuit of happiness, that can be misleading because it sounds like you're constantly under pressure to grab something, keep going after something. And in a sense it is so because you don't get happy by doing nothing. Like I said, we take personal responsibility for our happiness. That is work. That is effort. It takes effort to control my mind. It takes effort to decide to come to an event like this, for instance. It takes effort to go to work. It takes effort to listen. It takes a lot of effort. Yes, sir?
It takes a lot of effort to go to school when you don't.
Yeah, it takes a lot of effort to go to school when you don't want to go to school. But happiness in relationships. I've seen one of the key things I've learned is listening better. And most of the time I found that for a long period of time when I was listening, it was with ammo ready to, offload what I want to say without hearing what the other person was saying. And it causes a lot of problems. The other key for success or happiness in relationships I've discovered is trying to focus on the positive in other people. I like the way somebody else said it. He said, catch people doing something right. Catch them doing something right. Because the world is negative at large. Okay? If you don't believe me, look on the news. Not everybody's negative, but a lot of what's on the mass media is negative. Okay? But it's good to catch people doing what is right. I look for things in my wife that I like. I look for things in my daughter that I like. And I praise those things. I value those things. What you value, it increases. Okay? What you place value on, it increases. What's valuable to you, you add more value to it, it grows in value. And what we don't value becomes a statue over time. Okay? So I found out one of the things I can do is look for the positive. What was it? Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. Okay? So that's one thing. Look for positive things in people. Don't focus so much on the negative. These are some of the keys that have helped me in my relationships. Another thing that's helped me in my relationships is really connected to personal happiness, and that is facing reality. Because sometimes we see ourselves a certain way, and we perceive ourselves a certain way, and we think that's the way everybody else sees us. So one other thing that has really helped me is seeking feedback. Seeking feedback, of course, from people you can trust, right? I'm not going to walk out on the street and ask somebody I don't know, right? What do you think about me? Okay? But it's good to seek feedback from people that are close to us, people that trust us. Sometimes they can tell us some very painful truths. But these are truths that will help us grow in our relationships. And I've seen my relationships change over the years. It's a process, it's been growth, but it's been worth it. So, happiness in relationships is the second aspect. The third aspect I want to talk about, or the third component of happiness that I've discovered, is happiness in our callings and work. I like the word callings. I like the word destiny. You feel like there is a sense of purpose. Your life has meaning. You have a reason for being here. I like to live my life that way, knowing that I'm not just one of, how many, 6 billion right now on the planet. But apart from being one of 6 billion, I have a destiny, and every single person has a destiny. Every single person has a specific design. Every single person in this room tonight is unique. Every single person has giftings, callings, abilities, things that you can do with such ease without even preparing for them. And sometimes we don't even notice when we do those things. Things that you can even profit from. There are people working 9-to-5 jobs that they hate. And it all stems back to what I said about personal happiness. You see, happiness also has to do with meaning. It has to do with purpose. It has to do with an understanding of yourself. It has to do with being content with yourself. And when you are happy within yourself, with yourself, then you can express that happiness outside. There are a lot of people that are very talented, musicians, right, businessmen, and so on, but their personal lives or their relationships are in turmoil. This means they have attained or reached a certain point of experiencing happiness, maybe in their callings or in their work, and they can't handle personal stuff. And what they do is they keep running back to the callings or to the work to keep experiencing happiness over and over again. It's like a drug. Keep taking more of that because you experience happiness in that. But I believe that, and that's what I understand SOHO is about holistic, a holistic view of work. Seeing a person as a balanced person. I believe in the same thing, and I strive towards balance in my own life. So, happiness in our callings and our work is another aspect. And there's 3 questions behind this. One is why. The other is how. Why actually what, and then how. Why? Why am I here? Why am I on earth? Why? Who are the people I'm supposed to help? What is it I'm supposed to do? Where is the place I'm supposed to do it? With whom? For every one of us in this room, there are people that are waiting for us to show up. Because they are looking for what you have in you that can add value to them. And that's what a salary is. I heard from Mike Murdoch, a very wise man. He said, a salary is a reward for solving problems. Right? So, you want a bigger salary, solve a bigger problem. Okay? And it's true. Okay? But I must find out why, my what, and my how. And I've summarized that in the 3 things I said that I am about. I'm a speaker, I'm a writer, and I grow people and teams. Those 3 things. That's my why. That's my purpose. I'm here to add value to people's lives, to teams. That's also my what. The next is how, and this is a really big one. You may have heard the musical in the past with When You Wish Upon a Star. right? When you wish upon a star, it doesn't matter who you are, anything that your heart desires will come to you, right? I heard John Maxwell say it different, and I really like the way he said it. He said, when you wish upon a star, it won't get you very far. Anything your heart desires, it takes plans and work to come true. Okay? So the how has to do with work. Someone else said the only place you will find success before work is in the dictionary. Okay? So, whether it's in our personal happiness, or whether it's in happiness in our relationships, or whether happiness with our callings and our work, it's going to take work. It's going to take effort, day in, day out. Not quitting, keeping on, and keeping on. And in how, apart from work, it's going to involve also a plan. Right? Like they say in Bulgarian, ако не знаеш на къде си тръгнал, аз казвам, ще завършиш някъде другаде. Okay? You have to know where you're headed. If you don't know your destination, any port will do. If you don't know what happiness is to you, right, anything goes. If you don't know what happiness in relationships is supposed to be or is to you, anything will work. If you don't know what happiness at work is or what work that makes you happy is, anything will do. And I did a talk recently on engagement. And I saw there's a lot of talk about what the companies or the employers should do to engage employees. And there's engagement programs and bonus packages and so on and so forth, right? But there's the other side of that coin. What can the employee do to engage themselves? And if an employee or someone that's doing a job is not doing a job that they like, or they're doing something they hate, it's natural they won't be engaged. So, how has to do with a plan. What is it you want to achieve? How are you going to get there? Do you have a plan? Do you know where you're going to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? It may not be entirely accurate, but do you have that in your mind? Can you write it down? Can you write it down in 1 or 2 sentences? If you can't write it down, you need to clear it up. And if you haven't cleared it up in your mind, of course, I'm not imposing what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's good to clear it up. For me, it's become imperative to clarify who I am, what I do, because I don't want to live a wasted life. I don't want to live somebody else's life. I want to end my life happy, knowing that I finished what I was here to do. So that has to do with our work, finding meaningful work, and having a plan. How am I going to get there? The plan may not be perfect. It will need tweaking. It will change over time. You can have a vision that can change over time. Different elements of the vision can change over time. For instance, concerning my writing, whether it's writing books, right? Sometimes I start off in one direction and it goes in a totally different direction. It's the same thing with training. When I do my trainings, I learn so much from people that I train in my corporate trainings. Actually, someone said something, I think Stephen Covey, that said, the best way to learn something is to teach it to other people. Because then you get all kinds of questions from people, and it enriches your views, because nobody knows everything. I don't know everything there is to know. I'm also learning. So I think these questions are important. Why? Our what? And how? How has to do with work. How has to do with a plan. How are we going to get there? And another thing I've seen in my life is sometimes we're so caught up on the how it's going to happen because, you know, we're in Sofia or we're in Bulgaria or I'm this or I have this limitation or that limitation and so on. We're so much focused on the how that doesn't seem to be showing up instead of thinking more on the what. I've seen for me that the more I focus on the what, the clearer my what is, the how begins to show up. The clearer the image of my what is, how begins to show up. You go to a place, maybe you're at a bar somewhere or at a restaurant somewhere, and you're passing by somebody that you don't know, and they say something in a conversation that you overhear, and that's exactly what you needed to hear. Because you were so focused on the what, you were thinking about it, pondering on it. You've been clarifying it, making it clearer and clearer and clearer in your mind. And all of a sudden you go to an event, or you go to a place, or you meet people, and suddenly it's as if somehow that person was in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing or saying the right thing. The more you focus on the what, the how will become much clearer. So this has to do with happiness in our callings and in our work. The fourth component of happiness, we talked about personal happiness, being happy within ourselves. We talked about relationship happiness, happiness in our relationships, happiness in our callings or in our work. And the fourth one is in our experiences. It could be at an event. It could be going outdoors somewhere. It could be going on a vacation. And I've seen that in answer to the question, does money make us happy? I read from Dan Ariely. He's a behavioral economist. He has very interesting thoughts. And he was referring to an author of a different book that speaks about money being happy, through the way we use and spend our money. And they said, yes, happiness does come from money. Money can buy you happiness, but money cannot also buy you happiness. Because the more money you get to a certain point where really, even if you have things, you get tired of the things pretty quickly. But if you invest in experiences, for instance, my investing in a vacation with my family, or investing some time to spend with my daughter walking to the field, or investing, buying flowers for my wife, doing something that creates an experience, I see that money multiplies our happiness. And it's seen that you're even happier when you do things for other people, especially people that are, close to you and people that you love. So money is worthwhile investing more in experiences than in actual things. Things help. Things are good to have, right? I mean, in the rain, it won't be very pleasant, to walk home in the rain, unless you enjoy walking in the rain, right? I used to as a kid. But experiences are big. We saw a couple of slides with people that have different experiences, going diving, traveling, climbing the mountain, doing all kinds of things. And with different people, it's different. Some people have great experiences reading, they like studying, and so on. A great definition of happiness I got from a friend of mine, close friend of mine. He's here tonight. We were talking about happiness, and he said happiness is equal to a happy childhood. Because it begins from there, and you begin to reproduce the same models and the same things over again. And it spills over into your experiences and how you seek or pursue happiness. So, these are the thoughts I wanted to share on happiness. Our pursuit of happiness or our growth of happiness. We need to first seek it personally. Growing happiness personally, a healthy view of ourselves. We need to grow happiness in our relationships. When I say need to, if we want to experience happiness at its fullest, we grow happiness in our relationships as well. The next area, of course, is in our work. And finally, of course, in our experiences. Personally, I like quotes from King Solomon. He's seen as one of the richest men that ever lived. And he wrote a lot of proverbs, a lot of wise sayings. And he said something very interesting. He said, happy is the man that finds wisdom. A man that gains understanding. And he personifies wisdom, and he says that she's a tree of life to those that find her. Right? And he says happiness is equated to wisdom. And what is wisdom? Wisdom is really, I've seen, is the ability to discern difference. Discern difference in yourself, discern difference in an atmosphere and an opportunity, in people, in your relationships, in your calling. Differences in life. I talked to somebody, while I was doing this survey on happiness, and he said, to me, happiness is being able to make the right decision every day. Right? In every situation. And I was taken back by what he said. I said, that is really powerful. Right? And that is where wisdom comes in. For me personally, my own guide, or my own guidebook to happiness and wisdom is the Bible. That's mine, right? And it helps me. It helps me. It balances me. But I've seen that in order to be truly happy, we'll need to have all these components together. So, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for taking out time to come and listen to the talk. We're next going to have questions. We're going to take questions. If anyone has any questions to ask, I would like to attempt to answer. And we can have a discussion after that, and there's some things on the table. So it's really free for all. Thank you for your time.
Would you like to have a small pause before coming on with questions, or how would you like to proceed?
Yes, I think it would be great to have a pause if anyone wants to have something to drink or eat or...
Okay,
yes, thank you.
great.